And just like that, we are back with chapter 55 of the universe according to Mugsy. Today is Friday, January 17th, 2025. I am Mugsy the Creator, and we have a lot to discuss. A lot of things have gone on in the 17 days. We are already into 2025. That doesn't matter to most people because you guys don't even really know what happened in 2024 and all the years before that. But don't you worry. That is what Mugsy the Creator is here to help explain to you through our current events, our culture, and our consciousness. Oh, we got so much to discuss. We have so much to get into. It took me 17 days to get back to you. I don't know, a couple more before that. I think that's the longest break we've taken in the entire year. The entire first year of this podcast. And I think that everyone who is an influencer should go through some sort of transition period, maybe annually, maybe more often than that, where they sit down and they say to themselves, hey, do I want to keep doing this anymore? Is there any benefit to society from me opening up the hole in my face and allowing whatever comes out of my mouth to infect this broader landscape that we are still, I guess, today calling a society, but the reins on that are pretty loose. And really allowing people to be infected by whatever is actually coming out of there. Sometimes these thoughts are formulated. Sometimes they're not fully complete. Sometimes it's an amalgamation of both. And who knows if it's a net positive or a net negative for society. Lucky for me, there is no audience to consider I have made. Basically, no interaction with the broader society, so I can continue to do whatever the fuck I want. And that is so refreshing. This authenticity that I am going to continue to cultivate and try and nourish as best as I can so that it never gets clouded before it is broadcast out to the world. So whatever crazy bullshit that's coming through this hole in my face, for better or worse, it's what I'm here to say. Whether there's an audience, whether there's no audience, maybe I have fully lost my mind and this is some sort of therapy for me. I was considering all of these things over the last 17 days, and if you're listening to somebody who has not considered that in a while, then I don't think you should be listening to them, because I think what's really going on is they are feeding their own ego and you are contributing to that, because I find myself in such a peculiar position in the last year. It was my first year on social media in a decade at least. I'm talking fully on social media as I was attempting to cultivate an audience of people to watch this broadcast. But I was so much healthier when I was completely off social media. So 2025, I am getting back to my roots. I will continue to post this to all of the social media platforms, but my interaction on those platforms, I am going to drastically reduce and turn down, focus all of that energy on conversations in real life and on Patreon, because if you do not know, that is how this broadcast started. I started this podcast to have interesting discussions with people who loved what they did. And luckily in 2024, I was able to have one discussion with someone who loves what they do. That was my girl _MORPHIT_ on Instagram. My girl Yasmin, the beautiful soul who had a discussion on chapter 13 of this very broadcast. Now, I didn't even know what we were doing at the time, but time is the key word there. Time is just an illusion. I knew that I was following the intuition of whatever was going on inside of me, and the best idea for that was to turn on the camera. So while we only had one conversation, we were able to discern the most important aspects for expanding the collective consciousness were the aspects of current events, culture, and consciousness that gave us the framework to move forward with the discussion, whether or not there were people participating. And time was really my personal focus for so long before that, because the theory of relativity, E=mc², is proving mathematically that time is relative. Relative to what? Time is relative to the present moment, because time is an illusion. Past and future are illusions of the mind, and the only time that exists is right now. If I had to guess, people are going to go back and take a look at my catalog, which is now on YouTube, Patreon, Rumble, Apple, and Spotify, and they will take a look at that first year, 2024, and what they will see is a masterclass in the application of quantum mechanics and reality creation, changing the literal reality that you exist in by changing the emotion you feel in the current moment, manifesting through you your wildest dreams. So it's very important we get to know ourselves in a conversation with ourselves, which I think was the first year of this podcast, to drill down on what those dreams are. And I can sit here so excited going into 2025 with no audience, because I did what I came to do. I was heard in some way, shape, or form because I talked to myself. I expanded my own consciousness. And that cherry on top is the Breakheart Consciousness Diary, which is also available on all platforms. But the excitement is because I truly understand the magnificence of what went on in all of the amazing insights that were gained and how they played out in this podcast world that I created. It was literally unbelievable. I cannot believe I was capable of doing it myself, because I never really do anything truly alone. That's the truth. I had friends from everywhere along the way. Everywhere. And even though those friends, they chose not to interact in that first year on the broadcast. During this broadcast, I made the unconscious conscious, and I brought them through. How did I do that? I went back through time and I remembered the lessons each one of those friends taught me over time. And they manifest themselves through me. During that year, in that broadcast, in every thought that came into my head during the break card consciousness diary, during the audio recording, switching over in garages, out in the woods, doing whatever I had to do to continue forward no matter how the environment around me changed. The only thing I could do was control my own reaction to that environment. And things got tough. Why did things get tough? Because I talked about it, right? The economy was bottoming out, and the people that are going to feel that the most are the poorest among us. While I explain my wisdom and my true loves, all the wealth that I have to share with you, I make no mistake about the fact that I am also one of the poorest among us, feeling the brunt of the inflation that has compounded annually, and being one of the only people who can explain to you the yield curves inversion, what that truly means. As yields start to move around and the long term and the short term have flipped. I can tell you, I can literally explain to you how the dollar has eroded since its backing by gold has been pulled by the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States of America way back in 1970. But I have to feel this now here with you, the public, because those are the people that I truly want to reach. And how could I not have gone through this time and space with you, with a smile on my face, always being able to find a way and get through? Who would I be if I didn't do it at the hardest times, right? When I knew things were going to get extremely tough and I knew exactly why they were going to get hard. Who would I be if I ran from you then? My audience, this audience which I have tried so hard to cultivate a relationship with, a relationship of a relationship built on authenticity, because as an economist, that is truly the only currency that matters to me. As we move through all of that, I realized I don't give a shit. I don't care if anyone watches. It's been so fun to go back and forth and try and poke Dave Portnoy and PBD and Kirk Minahan and Dr. Hardiman, trying to get someone to observe me like I once observed the void. When you stare at consciousness, consciousness stares back at you. It takes that moment of observation for things to change. So I tried hard to get people to observe, and I mean, that should have been the comedic relief of the past year, is you need to stop trying and just become, I do not care. I truly don't care if anybody observes, if anyone watches. This is just for me now. This is a way for me to connect with my friends, the true people who recognize the brilliance of what has happened, the change, the manifestation, the becoming whole after traveling through time to collect all of the shards of oneself to bring that unity together again. There are people that will recognize that. But it is not super fun to talk about all of the heaviness when you don't get to enjoy the path of the current events, the culture, and the consciousness, because whether you care about these opinions or not, they are my observation of the world, and they could be useful to someone at some point in time. Now, I guess that was a good recap of 2024 in my own fucking way. But God forbid anybody hits their head on a keyboard and suddenly the universe, according to Mugsy, does pop up. I want you to enjoy all of the insights that we have been thinking about these past 17 days of 2025. Now, there has just been too much that's gone on, so let's do this. Let's do this current events, culture, and consciousness style, where we will wrap it back up right where we started. Time traveling, but for the moment we need to talk about the shoulder shimmy heard round the world LA 2.0, not the 1.0 shithole that we remember from yesteryear 2024. No, we are on to LA 2.0, and they literally set the streets on fire to celebrate, because what am I talking about? I'm talking about the rail system that they are putting in for the Olympic Games that are coming in 2028. Are you guys not excited? Gavin Newsom was talking about it. He was actually having a conversation with the governor, I think it was the governor of Hawaii, because they had so much success in eroding landscapes in Lahaina, Maui, a year ago, that Gavin Newsom actually had a conversation with him about the potential as we move towards the 2028 games, the Olympics that have been dubbed the No Car Olympics. They are aiming for a net energy positive here in terms of green energy usage. That's all exciting stuff, and that's what we have to be excited about in 2025. If you guys are out there celebrating in the streets, Thank you. Thank you for your celebration. This is what is required. You guys can pack a bag, don't pack a bag. We're evacuating you. You can exit stage left. We don't give a fuck where you go. We're burning down your fucking houses exactly where we want this new smart city to be. It is funny how the legislation goes in and the public laughs. The public laughs at them because there's no conceivable way that we could get Los Angeles in its current state of gridlock to look like a smart city by 2028 for the Olympics without something drastic happening. And then something drastic happens. Would you believe that? All the fires everywhere. I don't know how the fires started. I don't know how the insurance companies knew. The insurance companies knew that it is no longer fiscally responsible for us to run our Fortune 500 publicly traded companies with a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders to maximize shareholder profit in an industry so highly regulated that profits are capped at 5%. Would you believe that? The insurance industry, the home insurance industry. So in this crazy bid for profitability, which they are legally obligated to do, the insurance companies happen to pull out. Now, I would say right before these fires that devastated California, but this isn't the first time. These fires are now regular in the hills of California. It is interesting, though. This one happened to be by far the largest. 10,000 structures eradicated. Today is Friday, January 17, 2025. I don't even know if the fire's out. There was some Santa Ana winds that I'm supposed to believe blew fire around. And LA was some sort of tinderbox just waiting to go up in smoke. Now, it was some sort of tinderbox waiting to go up in smoke because of the neglect to the city itself by the politicians who, it has been revealed, spent $24 billion on homelessness, and homelessness only got worse. So, what are we to do? What are we to believe here? There's a lot of information that I don't know. There's so much information that I don't know. But the amount of information that I do know is alarming. How does everything burn down all the way to the coast? Because what is a coast? A coast is water, and water could put out fire, right? Oh, and then I have to sit and I have to watch men that I respect. Oh, men that I have so much respect for in some areas. And to just watch how they are perfectly manipulated. And if you don't know what I'm talking about Bill Burr and his late night appearance where he makes fun of anyone. Seemingly Bill Burr and his comedy has been a long evolution of his wife's projection of what she thinks of him onto him and him overlaying it onto society, because every person that he now believes it is okay to make fun of is someone who is sitting at home doing some critical thinking. They are doing something that used to be encouraged even when Bill Burr was a child, and I am talking about reading. Something that him and his friends now tell you are only for the experts, because how could someone on their couch think that maybe it's not a good idea as these wildfires are burning? Think that all of the fire trucks that are getting rerouted to Los Angeles because of the incredibly emergency that is going on, the literal 10,000 structure fires that I'm talking about. It must take a moron on their couch to realize that it's not a good idea at this present time to reroute all of those fire engines to Sacramento for them to be properly inspected before they are allowed to put out a wildfire. Or is it a wildfire? How do fires get started in Los Angeles? I'm seemingly now supposed to believe that meth heads really like fire, and they really like starting fire. Well, how about any of those 30 million people that came across the border in the last 4 years? Were any of them pyros? Did you check on that? Did anyone have a criminal history of burning things down before you invited them into your sanctuary city and allowed them to camp out in front of your $1 million mansions? Or did you not see how that in and of itself was some sort of tinderbox of energy of the society's most wealthy, living in the literal shit of society's lowest class? Because I believe energetically there's probably gonna be some friction there. Bill Burr, am I supposed to listen to some expert that spent $24 billion over the past 4 years trying to fix a problem that's only gotten worse? Who is that joke for, Bill? As your city burns down and you purchase a helicopter, too stupid to realize that your family has now expanded outside of the literal limitations of your two-seater helicopter, I'm supposed to believe you numbnuts, you fucking firebush, red-headed, dumb motherfucker, who I love and respect. Bill, you are in a bad spot right now, and only a real friend would tell you that, and you have been a real friend to me over the years, Bill. I love you. Get your head out of your ass. Oh, okay, because me and my wife have been laughing at your ass and all the stupid shit that's falling out of your face. Does this shit get laughs at the fucking LA comedy fucking clubs? Is this what's happened to the comedy scene in Los Angeles at the store? Fuck, dude, this is sad. This is sad, and I don't know if it's more sad that anybody with a comedic bone or a critical thinking bone in their body had to fucking pick up their shit and get out of there, not only for their own safety, but also for the fact that comedy is going to erode in that city of fucking blood hungry vampires that are sucking the energy out of you, blaming you for it, and feeding you shit that prevents you from seeing it yourself. Oh, I'm not saying Austin and everybody jerking off Rogan is the right move, but there's gotta be something in between. There's gotta be a happy medium. I am so tired of this polarization. We need to come together. We need to come together for something. And I don't even remember what the next story is. I can't imagine it's gonna bring us together. Oh! LA is crazy. It's Lahaina 2.0. The rich are too stupid to realize that they are not rich. They are a part of the slave class. Listen, I explained at the beginning of this how I've been going through this in the bottom of society for reasons I don't even particularly understand or myself, other than this Irish Catholic guilt that I like to make things difficult for myself. But if I cannot convince the rich after 10,000 structures burned down in the Pacific Palisades that in no way, shape, or form are you any different than homeless motherfucking me who happens to be living inside of a house but has no chance at building a life of his own are exactly the same. You have millions and millions of dollars, and yet you cannot get out of the decision tree that leads you right back to square fucked. And you can't get out of your mind that we are the same. I am you and you are me. We are experiencing this life divided. If I were you with $1 million who couldn't get out of my own fucking way, I would be making the same fucking decisions. But I'm not. I'm me sitting here at home with no fucking audience whatsoever. But I have the love in my heart to say maybe, just fucking maybe, this is going to reach somebody in Los Angeles and they are going to start looking inside to themselves and stop looking outside at what's around them for some fulfillment in their lives. And then in that moment, in that one moment, they will awaken. And that dream that is going on outside will no longer exist anymore. All of a sudden, you are going to be waking up and you are going to be living a completely different life. And you're going to feel like a piece of shit for a little while, and that's okay. That's totally okay, because friends allow friends to be pieces of shit every once in a while, as long as they stop when someone points it out to them. So, Bill, I fucking hope that I don't have to listen to you shit on us any more than we deserve, because I'm a dummy. I'm so stupid. I'm probably making so many mistakes right now that you could probably point this, I don't know, look over here or look over here. I'm sure I'm doing some dumb shit, man. I'm sure I've got some fucking skeletons in my closet. So let's fucking bring that unconscious out, you motherfucker. Help me. Make a joke at my expense that I want to laugh at because it's true. It cuts right to that truth of my arrogance, of my hypocrisy, because surely I am not perfect. Help me, Bill Burr. I implore you, help me get better, you red-headed bitch. Oh, the first rant of 2025, and it is on the city of fucking Satan and my hero, Bill Burr. Oh, Bill, I love you, you fuck. You fucking red-headed prick, you fuck. Oh, the internet hates you. I know you're never gonna see that, but the internet hates you, buddy. And that's the way to do it, is to stop looking at the internet. And so, Bill, thank you, because what I've realized, again, is I got to get off social media myself, because it is not helpful to go out there and do anything other than post my shit. because I don't care what any of you have to say. All right, I'm busy doing my own thing. What else did I have to talk about? Did I cover it all? Did I cover it all in this little red book, Generation Z? Do you see what this is? This is a little red book. Stop downloading that app. The culture. Oh, the culture. Let's get into the culture and TikTok. There seems to be a rebellion. Oh, I didn't think we were going to go here, but let's go here because it perfectly encapsulates the generational conflict that I have observed and the polarity in which I am noticing it, because who is our oldest generation that is alive largely today? That is the boomer generation. They are on one end of the spectrum. And the youngest generation that we have today is the Zoomer generation. So on either side of the spectrum, you have two generations of self-centered, arrogant assholes who cannot think about anybody other than themselves. Now, Generation Z is young. They are the literal children of our society. So when I find out that they are rebelling against society and TikTok and saying, hey, listen, we don't care about giving all of our data and information to the Chinese. In fact, if you try and ban the propaganda mind control app that we are all so addicted to, we will go out and download Red Book. I don't even know if that's the real name of the Chinese app. The characters are in Chinese and I do not speak Chinese, but they are cutting off their nose to spite their face because they are young, stupid, and naive. Which is why I cannot believe on the other end of the spectrum we have the boomers who refuse to acknowledge that they are in any way out of touch. That is why we went through a pandemic where anyone prior to 2020 would tell you the most important class of people to protect during any medical outbreak are the children. Instead, we focused almost all of our efforts exclusively on the elderly, with almost complete disregard. I am on the line of saying potentially criminal disregard for the protection and the health of our youth. And hopefully we will get some resolution to whether or not that was criminal in the coming years. But up until this point, at this stage of the game, it was at least a selfish, self-centered time that reflected broadly the beliefs and ideals of our oldest class, the class that is here guiding most of the institutions, assets, power, control, wealth, houses, literal things that people need, means of production, protection, weapons, food, all of it, with complete disregard for any other generation. Now, we could go into how this may have been a trait that played out throughout their entire lifespan, and how this is a recurring theme and how it has led us to the position that we are now in as a country. But I don't think that's useful, at least in this current time and space. But in the culture, what we have are a complete and total fracturing from generational conflict. The same type of conflict that forces these generations to share the same environments and spaces, even though they have two completely different outlooks on the world. So how can we expect any different result than the same result we get when we have the wealthiest among us living in the literal poop of the lowest, poorest among us, like was happening in LA? This friction is designed to literally cause a fire that destroys the society that we know, so that a new society, a phoenix, may rise up in its ashes. All of the pieces are in place. Our wealthy and powerful are trying to hijack this fire and tell you that it's happening so that we can make way for this clean energy agenda, smart city, 15-minute city, clean energy, green car thing like is happening in Lahaina, Maui, and Los Angeles, in the Pacific Palisades and surrounding suburbs. Or we can deny that that's happening, right? I'm sorry, not that we can deny that it's happening, or we can use it to build something new for ourselves. We can use that same friction, those same pieces that are already in place in this puzzle that are causing us to create this fire. We can use that fire to create something that is better for all of us. But we can't do that when we start eating ourselves and cutting off our nose to spite our face. If we are the older generations, how can we not take care of our youth? And if you are the youth, how can you not try and find some of the wisdom in the generations of people that have had experiences before you? I'm not saying that they made all of the right decisions. Not at all. What I'm saying is, every time that there is something horrible that shifts the landscape of society, it is an opportunity just as much as it is a hurdle and an obstacle for us to get over. This is the bottom. We're in hyperinflation and stagflation. There are no jobs out there. Believe me, I'm looking for them. And the prices are going up every day. I don't have much that I can cut out of my life and still be as healthy and happy as I am every day. Which means push is coming to shove. And if I'm here, I can only imagine what it's like for a lot of the people out there that don't have the benefit of the network of friends and the wisdom that I've cultivated through them over the years to fall back on. So hopefully we can find a way to come together and work for some sort of common goal in this society and stop downloading Red Book apps, Generation Z. Boomers, I don't know what to do with you anymore. I don't know how to help you help yourselves. I am trying to love you so much that you learn how to love yourself, but you are resisting. I can't not exist. I can't not be who I am because you're afraid of what it might mean for you. Some of us have recognized that, and before we finish on LA and the no car. I cannot believe that no one is bringing up the Olympics. I can't believe I didn't see a hell of a lot more of that on the internet and conspiracy world. 2028, the Olympics are coming to LA, and all of a sudden we had a massive event that happened to clear the way for the exact plans that were already in place. Maybe it's a big coincidence, but there are no coincidences in this universe. There's only incentive structures. And right now, my incentives are still aligned to continue this conversation. So for now, we will. I just really couldn't believe that I didn't hear more about it, especially the Olympics. I heard plenty about the smart meters that no one can do anything about on the side of their houses because there are a lot of barriers to people making changes in the patterns in their lives, but figuring out smart meters and electricity and heating and wavelengths and radio waves and ignition points are more in the military industrial toolkit, which I saw plenty of on the internet, and I wonder why people aren't drawing many of the same parallels. But hey, that's for them. I can only talk about what I can talk about and the things that I see. And there were so many conversations in the culture that have gone on that I haven't been able to keep an eye on because I've been busy trying to provide for myself as a hunter-gatherer, poor person, homeless person. I don't really know how you would classify me at this stage of the game, but one of the conversations I did tune in for because I think that it's so important. Because it really reveals what's going on in the culture, in the layers, is the HB1 visas. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have been pushing very hard and taken very strong positions that were counter to their positions that they were lobbying for just months ago. Welcome back. I guess this is still part of the current events. We are talking about the political structure that has gone on. Have you guys enjoyed Trump 2024? It was awesome. I loved it. I literally have a picture of Donald Trump, Kid Rock, Dana White, Tucker Carlson, and Trump Jr. in black and white on my desk in my room because I love seeing that. I love seeing that moment. And when he came out after he was elected, president-elect of the United States with Elon Musk and Vivek and his whole cabinet, Tulsi and RFK Jr., and they took Trump's plane and they went to the UFC. I was the first person cheering them on. Let's go. Let's go. I want to see this Avengers team assembled to take on the deep state. But at the same time, I was telling you, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up because if Elon knows half of the things that I know, then he isn't half of the person that he claims to be. He could not know the things that I know, say the things that he's saying, do the things that he's doing in real life, and be the perfect person of moral character that he says he is. There is some cognitive dissonance happening in his mind, or I'm full of shit, but I, being me, think he's full of shit. Now, what I said is politicians are never going to solve your problems because the H-1B, I forget what HB1 visas and the H-1B1 is the virus that they're There's a reason that all of this terminology gets so ambiguous and all of these stories hit your consciousness at the same time. It's supposed to confuse you. We're supposed to now, at this moment in time, forget about the 30 million people that are now here illegally working, and we are supposed to focus all of our attention and efforts on 60 to 100,000 people that are going to be coming into this country because presumably they are going to be taking the jobs that are reserved normally for the highest classes of our caste system that exists here in the United States of America. Our oligarchy that has certain positions reserved for people of high class and natural-born American descent. Now, that in and of itself is crazy on its face for the American electorate to be focusing its energy on the smallest percentage of high-paying positions at the top of these institutions and corporations that pay so much and have so much power, when in reality, the thing that is most likely going to affect the wages of your everyday American citizen are the 30 million people that came in illegally, 30 million, 20 million, 12 million that may be working above the table, maybe working below the table, all suppressing wages in the United States of America because now we have a class of lower class citizens that are willing to work for extreme poverty wages in this country. That undercuts the majority of the American citizenry. Now, why would they care so much? Oh, it's just a distraction. That's all it is. It's just to distract you. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't care about this. Of course, it's a pretty big deal. Because who gets these jobs? What are these jobs? Well, a certain percentage of these jobs are little more than slave positions that are controlled by the corporations as they are able to import people from very desperate situations from around the world under the condition they only work for that corporation. So there is no real competition for that worker because if they were to leave that job, they would be deported. So that's not really a free marketplace. It's certainly not the free marketplace that they want you to believe this American capitalist society is. But what I would like to focus on is the small percentage of those visas that go to people like Elon Musk and the CEO of Microsoft and the CEO of Google and Spotify and Twitter and the CEO of many of these tech companies that are flown in presumably because of their ties to other foreign governments' agendas and incentive structures, maybe non-government institutions that happen to align with many of the incentives of the board of directors of that very powerful corporation. Because when you choose someone who chooses the direction of the company and its mission statement, its ethics, and its values, and you choose someone who is not from this country, even though the entire company and most of its workers, its products, its development, and the culture that the corporation creates is largely going to be built by an American class of citizens that have some sort of other cultural values that they've all agreed upon. That is no longer going to be the case because we've chosen, or that corporation has chosen, someone to specifically get a special visa because of some special thing that they have that is impossible to find here in the United States of America. I don't know what that is, and I'm not saying we should get rid of the Elon Musk, and I'm not saying we should avoid this conversation now altogether. What I'm saying is, perhaps there's a reason that it's under the microscope. And I guess while it's under the microscope, I will use it to help the layman understand the layers of the onion that we call our culture and society today. Because politics are never going to be the answer, and politicians are never going to do the things that we need them to do because it requires too much of them to stand in the way of an entire government. I mean, I'd love to see him do it. I'd love to see him try. But even right now, it's been revealed in people that I love and I care for and spoke to exactly what I wanted to hear have happen and come out, like Elon Musk and Vivek, changing their mind on this visa. They used to speak about how they would scrap the program altogether as they were helping President Trump campaign for office. And now that they've been placed in some sort of position in his cabinet, presidential appointed position, all of a sudden they completely flip-flopped 100% on the position they had when they were campaigning to the American public, perhaps because they believe the American public is no longer watching. But this layered issue, as we just went through perfectly, highlights that you too, Vivek, no matter how well you speak and no matter how much you appeal to my ideals that I would like to see in this country, you cannot stand behind them. You too are wearing a mask. And this one hurts. It truly hurts. And by the way, before we get into this, Vivek, Elon, Tulsi Gabbard, I'm about to rip into, it remains to be seen what you are doing, what you will do, the moves that you will make in the positions that you're in on the chessboard to make life for the American citizen a better life to lead, an easier, more comfortable life to lead that holds up to the ideals of the Constitution of the United States. So I hope you are able to do that. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, calling you out on the things that you are saying now that appear to be the exact antithesis of everything you were stating previously. Tulsi Gabbard, you are in that camp as well. Tulsi, oh, my heart goes out. I am just killing my heroes right here. This is a hero killing podcast in LA 2.0. As Tulsi has now flip-flopped on her position to end mass surveillance of American citizens that has been going on under the expansion of the Patriot Act every year since 2001. Oh, it hurts. It's like a dagger to my heart, Tulsi. Oh, my little X-Men, my little Weather Storm girl, oh, with that gray streak running through your hair. How could you flip-flop on me? I so wanted you to come in and be that Secretary of Defense badass woman that we need, who comes in surprisingly with this sword of compassion and discernment, who can discern the things that are necessary for our defense and the things that are actually truly cutting the American people the deepest. But if you now believe that mass surveillance against literal privacy, all of the privacies that were guaranteed to us in the Constitution of the United States of America are now no longer enshrined to us, then I can no longer back you and be your supporter despite how much I want you to believe the things you previously stated. I hope you're saying this now because it's what you have to say to get confirmed, and you're gonna flip-flop right back and be the superhero that I want you to. I just don't know if that's gonna be the case, because I know politicians and they've so goddamn always put their boot on the public's neck as soon as they could, or they had to for self-preservation. Do you think you were the first person with a moral compass to enter the hallowed halls of Washington, D.C.? I don't think so. I don't think you're the first person to try and change the tides individually yourself. I think that's what we, the American public that voted for a new regime, and I'm not even included in that, but the percentage of the American public that wanted to believe in the change that was going to come about as Donald Trump marched into that UFC arena with his cabinet that he desired to appoint, hoping that they would get a point and all the things that they would achieve together would make a difference. Oh, I want to believe, but do not hold your breath. All right, because I predicted the future goddamn often. So goddamn often, I quit my job managing a $3 billion portfolio of commercial loans to predict the future on a podcast. Make the world a better place and expand the collective consciousness. Do you know how goddamn certain I would have to be in my ability to do something if I was going to make such a radical change in my life with complete and total comfort? Come on. This is not my first rodeo. There's a reason I'm on this side of the influencer catalog and you're on that. Okay, I create the shit. I create the conversation that allows you to have a couple neurons that rub together real quick and we get that spark of, oh, wait a minute. That's right, inside of your brain that projects out into your reality, that shapes your reality and combines into this collective reality that we call our culture. And you're doing these things on the social media apps that you're not following me on. You're out there on Facebook not knowing that people like Mark Zuckerberg are pieces of alien trash or robot trash. I don't even know exactly what Mark is, because that was one of the conversations I had the opportunity of listening to. And they got right into it. They got right into the fact that, oh yeah, we've been censoring a lot of stuff. The government pressured us into a lot of stuff. In fact, they would call us screaming and swearing. And did you hold on to any of those voicemails, Mark Zuckerberg? Well, no, we didn't record the government telling us exactly what to do, even though we felt it was against our First Amendment rights or the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. We thought it was wrong against our customer base, but we capitulated anyways to the government because what would you do? And please be sorry for me. That was exactly what Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg got into right at the beginning of that 2 hour and 40-something minute conversation. And it's not like it got better after that. It's not like once we breezed past this area where Mark just casually said, oh yeah, by the way, sorry for suppressing you guys. My bad. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of those things that I prevented you guys from sharing information on. That was my B. But we are never going to do that again because we're in a new space and time. We are in a new version of Meta, and we're not going to do that anymore. It's just crazy that we, the public, are supposed to eat that up. And we are supposed to believe you, you crazy person? Am I supposed to forget that this is how you drink water? Because where do we get insights into Zuckerberg and his thoughts? Where do we get to see you, Mark? Oh, congressional testimony. Oh, drinking some water. Yeah, you think we forgot about that, you fucking alien? Why were you shaking like a leaf in every congressional... Well, first of all, why are you getting wheeled into every goddamn congressional testimony on technology there is? It's because you are the bad guy. That's why the government is always asking you questions in fucking Washington. They're always like, are you fucking shadow banning people? And you're always sitting there like with some look on your face like a guiltiest motherfucking kid that took every cookie out of the cookie jar. And he's sitting there with fucking crumbs all over his face and his stomach hanging out and fucking all the milk's gone. And he's like, I didn't eat a fucking cookie. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm allergic to cookies. And we're supposed to forget all of that shit. I'm supposed to forget all of that shit. I'm supposed to forget all the other fucking times we've seen you speaking Chinese on paddle boards, fucking buying bunkers in Hawaii that just happen to not burn down while the rest of the island's burning down. And oh yeah, you're not building a bunker, you just bought a house that already has a bunker in it. Same shit, fuckface. How much have you invested into those floating islands in the Pacific so you can once and for all say goodbye to land masses altogether and you can control us through your algorithms from the ocean or space? Is that why you're trying to get on Elon's good side? Do you want to be the first motherfucking propagandist on the moon or Mars, you piece of shit? Oh, Zuckerberg, you deep state clone creation, you DARPA stealing from 2 goddamn clones already that weren't smart enough to figure out that this was gonna be the weapon of the next generation. Oh, I see you for all your mind control bullshit. And that's why the conversations are so important. I don't understand why they do it. I don't understand. They walk into the fucking lion's den and they sit down with the fucking lion, Joe Rogan, and he is the politest, most fucking cordial lion you are ever gonna meet, but he fucking tears you apart limb from limb. Because the only currency that exists in this society that is going on right now is authenticity. And he picks apart every little fucking lie that you tell about being a bow hunter and your striking capabilities. And we are just not supposed to notice when you're talking about how, yeah, I really like using a rifle because it's much more efficient. It's much more efficient. How many times are you missing with that bow? Oh, how many times do you miss? Oh, Joe Rogan, also a bow hunter, prides himself on being close enough to the animal in the bow hunt. It is a spiritual exchange. And because he cares so much about the spiritual, energetic exchange that is going on, and he has so much gratitude for that moment, he pushes himself to the bounds of physical strength and athleticism so that he can take the life of that animal as quickly as humanly or spiritually possible, so that that animal suffers almost no suffering at all. Because that is the type of hunter that Joe Rogan is. And Mark Zuckerberg has no idea what it's like to truly bow hunt. And that could not be more evident in the conversation he had with him. More efficient with a rifle, you piece of shit. We're not even doing the same thing. We are not even in the same realm of your sport hunting, ego building, masculine, vacuum existing life that is this technocratic piece of military industrial complex technology that wouldn't understand an authentic conversation if it tore him limb from limb. Literally. It reminded me of the Portnoy conversation with Joe Rogan, someone who could seemingly be a part of the conversation and so far outside the realm of what is going on in the present moment that I thought that he was going to be the most out of touch Joe Rogan experience that I had ever heard. And I get that Mark is a uniquely out of touch person, but this truly eclipsed Dave Portnoy's ego. And that is hard to do. That is so hard to do, to eclipse Dave Portnoy's ego. And he, also a person like Mark Zuckerberg, I'll tell you, as someone who grew up at 14 years old in 2004, when Dave Portnoy started a website, he was the largest, most powerful, controlling media figure of my generation in Boston media, probably New England media, and maybe the country. Certainly the largest zero to growing a company that I got to witness in real time. So I have a lot of respect for him and everything that he's built. He sat at the helm for a long time of a very powerful media company. So for Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, arguably much more powerful. Not arguably, he's way more powerful. To eclipse that is impressive. Two very impressive people, Zuckerberg and Portnoy. Two alien-looking motherfuckers. And both with an immense amount of control in their own way. Both of whom seem to be on the tail end of their story, no longer having the grip on the culture that they once did. As I said last year in 2024, Barstool is dead. Barstool Sports is dead. The company that once existed is no more. They have no more sway. They do not control the media in the way that they once did. They do not have the stranglehold on the culture. And a lot of it is not their fault, but perhaps the most, I don't know how we describe it. The pink wedding, as it was dubbed, on Barstool Survivor, which is just an incredible. I would love to take a moment on my platform to congratulate Barstool Sports and Barstool Survivor as by far the best production that they put on. I think by a mile. It is so good. It's the quality of the game, of the video production, of the storyline, of all of the challenges, and just how difficult that is while doing it inside an office that's running at full capacity. Just a literal unbelievable, fucking great job to the whole team, the company, everyone that was on. It was beautiful, so entertaining. It was just like the real Survivor. I hated everybody on it. I loved them. I was yelling at my screen. I was pulling my hair out. I was emotionally invested, which is really what gave Barstool the control that they've always had over the culture and the consciousness and the society as it has grown over the past 20 years. That was really how they manipulated their user base into being profitable for them, and that allowed them to catapult them into the stage that they're currently at. But like I said, they're losing all that stranglehold. If I could take it and distill it into one watching experience, I would distill it into the pink wedding in one of the most beautiful reality television shows ever, because it is a great example of everything Barstool set out to be, set out to become, how they changed along the way, why they have failed to be what they set out to become, how they have inevitably became everything they once hated, and now they are in the stage of self-destruction, just like is happening to the mainstream media, because it is revealed as they try to build Barstool Sports, a platform on authenticity by the common man for the common man. They started out fighting against the mainstream in sports, culture, society, and comedy, trying to be something that your everyday person could relate to, but in their transportation into superstardom, they revealed that they too are just like everyone else, because they did not put enough effort into staying grounded to that mission, or the mission changed. The mission changed, and now their user base is starting to realize, because when you have built your number 2 star on a lie, and it is revealed by perhaps one of the best detectives of a generation, Kirk Minahan, the star of Barstool Sports production show The Case, where he dives into cold case murders and solves them in real time, years and years after all of the evidence has dried up. The leads have run dry. He dives back into the case, and he cuts to the heart of the evidence and uses his insights to put together some plausible mystery that may have gone on, and wouldn't you know it, he is able to crack the case. And the case that he happened to crack during that episode of Barstool Survivor, they named the pink wedding, was that of Barstool's own Dan Katz, Big Cat, as a fraud, perhaps one of the biggest frauds to ever walk the sports media landscape at one of the highest levels. I mean, truly, this guy, when you think about him and PFT and Pardon My Take and how it unseated Sports Center as a go-to sports news coverage, stats, podcast and replaced it in society and culture almost immediately as the number one go-to, not only for true, authentic, real interviews with athletes, but getting an experience that ESPN and mainstream media, or legacy media, as we're calling it now, just weren't showing you the behind the scenes, how the sausage is made, peeing his pants on during interviews and going to extreme lengths to prove that he is the common man. Kirk sniffed all of that out. Because if Dan Katz, the biggest person in Chicago's sports media, is actually from Newton, Massachusetts, and was raised a Patriots fan, not a Bears fan, not a Chicago Bulls fan, not a Blackhawks fan, not a Chicago Cubs fan. He wasn't raised anything. Instead, it was the fucking Celtics. It was the Bruins. It was the Red Sox. Were you cheering on Tom Brady while I was sitting in the stands in January of 2001? On that cold January night, I remember how cold it was. Of course I remember. I was out there tailgating for hours and hours before that game. What game am I talking about? I'm talking about the Raiders game, motherfucker. That first playoff game. You know, the Snow Bowl. Well, I was standing there in the cold at age 11, watching my future hero, Tom Brady, take the reins and march the team down the field, and so that Adam Vinatieri can tie the game up, send the game into overtime, and then Tom can lead him back down the field, and he can kick this ball, this pigskin, on the last night of game athletics going on in hallowed Foxborough Stadium, where we never saw any championships of our New England Patriots. Tom Brady can march down the field, and into that night, Adam Vinatieri can kick that ball where not even he knew where it would land, because you couldn't see it. You couldn't see it. That's how bad it was snowing that night, Dan Katz. Were you there, or were you watching it on TV, Dan? Were you cheering on my Patriots and Adam Vinatieri? I know you couldn't have been standing there in Foxborough Stadium on those bleacher seats that I remember so well. I remember how cold it was when I looked up into that night, and I didn't know. I did not know if the Patriots were going to have another playoff game. I had to rely on the fans. And as I looked up into that dark sky, as the flecks of white snowflakes were crumbing down on me, and I listened to the roar of New England Patriots fans after the year that we had, September 11th, the same season that had started off that year that brought us all together as Patriots. I looked up and I cheered. And I knew that this was not the start of one championship. No, this is the changing of the guard. This is the beginning of something special. Something crazy, the electricity in that arena on that night. I don't know if it was the literal electricity from the atmosphere being carried down by the water molecules of the snowflakes. And in each one of those snowflakes, our consciousness, our desire after 80 years of no Red Sox championships, a crazy drought for the Boston Celtics and the Boston Bruins. Could this moment, could our electricity actually change the future that was written into sporting history? And then that Tuck rule, our electricity, the fans, everyone that was a true fan on that night, changed the stars. And they sent the New England Patriots and the city of Boston on an unprecedented run in athletics that was fueled by the consciousness, the pure belief of everyone inside of that city, inside of that region, New England, Boston, title town. All of the energy, everyone knew it. Athletes came from around the country and around the world. They took less money just to participate in the electricity that was all started on that night. And I didn't even watch a Patriots game this year. I don't even consider myself a sports fan. What am I? I'm authentic. Right? I've changed. I no longer consider Tom Brady a hero. I consider anyone that does a crazy person. He's a psycho. One of the best at what he does, and I am so grateful to him for all of the amazing memories that I shared with my friends and family as we got to watch all of the incredible athletic feats that took place not only at Gillette Stadium, because they never took place again at Foxborough Stadium. That was the last game. But Fenway Park, the Boston Garden, and stadiums and field across the country. I was united with the people that I grew up with. I didn't so much care about the sport. I cared about the energy and the culture that it created and the happiness that you could feel in the streets. Because Boston was an amazing place to be around. New England was an amazing place to be around for 20 years. Oh, 20 years. It was beautiful. You gave all of that up. All of it. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Oh, man. When you look at Big Cat and all that he became, the life that he led as the largest media star in Chicago. Shit. I appreciate Big Cat. I love the authenticity that we get from athletes because Big Cat, PFT Commodore, Barstool Sports, Pardon My Tank, Hank Lockwood, everyone involved in that production, what it became and what it did for the concert, the consciousness and the culture. I appreciate Big Cat for all of it, but it reveals that it was built all on this lie of Newton Dan. Oh, Newton Dan, you're killing me, Newton Dan. Oh, it's tough. It sucks. But the internet's undefeated, motherfucker, and right now, so am I. I love Dan Katz. I love Barstool. I love press. Just like I love Bill Burr, Tulsi Gabbard, and fucking Elon Musk before. But you got to call a spade a spade. Whatever Barstool was, it's over now. All right, because you guys were full of shit when you started and you forgot that authenticity is the only thing that matters. I'm not saying that tomorrow you guys are all going to lose your jobs and the advertisers are going to dry up. What I'm telling you is this is an opportunity for you to reflect on the things that got you here, my friend. This is a massive opportunity for you people out there in the media space to understand that this is important. Authenticity is important because if we're not speaking authentically, then what are we doing? Why are you tuning into this? You should change the channel. When I am no longer being my authentic self, I hope that there is a very clear audience drop off, but I guess in order for me to see that, I'd need an audience, and I don't even have one of those, so who gives a fuck, big cat? This is just me alone in my room just saying, hey, motherfucker, get your shit together, all right? Because we love you in your role, so stop abusing it and reflect on what you have become, because I don't want to watch you in any more commercials, buddy. All right? I'm so tired of turning on a broadcast, whether it's Barstool or not, and seeing a fucking commercial, a big cat trying to sell me some poisonous soap or some caffeine so I can continue to avoid my problems like him, or some food that's going to give me kidney stones, right? Or so I can lose more of my money and time and consciousness and energy gambling. Oh, buddy, I love you, but this was a tough one. Maybe it's just tough for me. Hey, the bright side is maybe I'm the only one that gives a shit about it. All right? Maybe nobody else cares that you're a complete and total fabrication of your own creation that you created, but it just makes me wonder what the fuck else is there. That can't be the only thing. It's not possible. I don't believe that you're hiding one thing. I think there's a lot that you have covered up. And until the unconscious is made conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. That's how this whole projection works. I wonder what I'm projecting right now. Now, what else did we have to talk about? Oh, that's it. Just our consciousness. The consciousness that we have talked about a bit, and maybe it's fitting that we close back out and talk about time. Because if there's any one thing that I spent a ton, I don't know if that's true, to be honest. I have spent a ridiculous amount of time and energy thinking about the concept of time and trying to understand it. I got there through my intense focus on the equation E equals mc squared. Einstein's theory of general relativity, which proves mathematically and experimentally that time is experienced differently by the experiencer, which means that all time is relative to the now, where your current position is in space-time, the only time that really exists. Now, I also firmly believe that I know nothing. I don't know a goddamn thing. So how do I maintain this semblance of moving through what we call time forward? Right? Forward as we experience through what our brain creates as past and future. We experience as forward. But when you stop and you actually integrate your understanding that the only time that exists is right now, you can move forward and backward through time like it is a direction, like you are going north or south on a map. Time can be experienced the same way. Well, how do you do that? How do you take this one moment that we have now and go back through time? Well, now that we know that past and future are a fabrication, they are illusions to our mind, the now, the only time that exists, we can go into this fabrication that doesn't exist called the past. Because when we run experiments, we've done this for years and years. You can go back to the 50s and watch an American football game. When you interview people coming out of the football game, they have two drastically different opinions on what happened because they had two drastically different experiences. Okay, so when we go back through time, the time I got my first job, I am going to remember that experience the way that I experienced it, but I can't remember exactly what was happening that day. I don't remember whether it was a phone call, an email. What do I remember? As in my mind, I try and go back to that moment in space-time. I remember the lesson that was there for me. Because that's the only lesson that can be tied to the now. Because the only time that exists is now. Anything that I am experiencing or believe to be experiencing in my past or in my future is all to help me in this moment. The now. The only time that exists. As we think about time and we start to understand this and integrate it, if we care about self-reflection and self-improvement and listening to our own intuition as our guidance, as our own internal operating system on how we interact with this world, then the now, the present moment, becomes incredibly important, and those things that we believe we're experiencing in past or in future are the wisdom that we need to get us through this current moment. It is an illusion. That experience that you're remembering, the basketball team, the breakup, the fight, the job you got, the job you didn't get, the death, whatever it was that rocked you to a point that your brain is bringing it back up in the now, is what you need to get through the now. So when I see people experiencing tough times, like maybe Big Cat is going through right now, he's rocked because he realizes he's been off track somewhere. The only way to tie yourself back to the present moment and ground yourself is to focus on the now. And understanding the now. And sometimes in the now, the only thing that comes up is the past. Because that's the wisdom that we need for the now. So what is it that has been unconscious that we need to make conscious again? To go back to that moment in our past, become a time traveler in the present moment now, and retrieve that shard of ourself that will allow us to feel whole in this present moment and stop going outside of ourselves and realize that everything we have is right now, here in this moment. All of the power in the universe exists now. What are you going to do with it? That is your consciousness. That is how your individual consciousness contributes to the collective consciousness that we all share and experience. And that collective consciousness that we all share and experience produces the current events that play out before us, sometimes on reality TV, sometimes in our newspapers, sometimes it burns down the house that we used to live in. If you don't like the current events that you're seeing, the only control you have is over your consciousness. So it's very important that you take your consciousness back. That was a great episode. I love you guys, all of you that I was really hard on. This is a tough time of year. It is the time to, it's the winter. Self-reflect, stay inside, think about yourself, think about who you want to become in this new year, this new 2025, and I am hopefully going to stop paying attention to whether there is an audience or not, and I'm just going to have a conversation with you guys or myself authentically, and if you have questions, comments, or concerns, why don't you hit me up on patreon.com/MugsyTheCreator, MugsyTheCreator, everywhere else. Why don't you follow me on there? Maybe I'll notice, maybe I won't. Take back your consciousness. I love you. I'm out.